great story, but everybody and their dog has gone looking for that lost mine and the gold, from the Dutchman. And here we are going for these other stories. We're bringing something new to the table, and that's what we're trying to show, is that you don't have to go after those big stories. And the big stories like that, you might want to think twice, because how many thousands of people have looked for it prior to you, including metal detecting? How many metal detectorists have gone through that area? And where we're going, these areas, not only do most people don't know where we're going, most people haven't been there because they haven't heard the legend that's behind it.
Right. So true. So there's been a lot of stuff. Do y'all want to talk a little bit about this particular episode real quick?
Yeah. Well, for one thing, Gypsy, it was really great to have you. Like I said in the episode, you really get to know people when you go out and treasure hunt with them for a couple of days. Me and you, we've talked a lot, and I think me and you think a lot alike in a lot of ways, and it was a lot of fun to have you there. And I think the whole team feels the same way.
Yeah, it was great. It was fun.
Go ahead, Todd.
Oh, it was a really fun time. We had a good time, even with all the heat and the bugs and those
right.
non-existent snakes and.
Right. I had a blast. It was, even those adventures where you don't find, how many times have I been out metal detecting or treasure hunting and come back, empty-handed treasures, or all I found was a bunch of trash and stuff like that. To me, you never come back. You may come back empty-handed, but you come back with knowledge in some form of way. You learn a lesson, and I think that we learned many lessons through that adventure and other places that we still haven't even yet to explore. It's such a vast area. So I think we accomplished a lot just in the short time, even though we didn't find that particular cave that, that they were talking about, but, or how it pertains, if it pertains to what we found, with the first thing that we found with the four or five markings on the rock. But, that is an amazing find right there in itself. But there's just so much area out there to explore and just never enough time. You could spend a lifetime searching out there. So I think it was very fruitful, even though we didn't come back with, finds from this big cave or treasures. But we came back with nuggets of knowledge and, a fondness and love for all each other and appreciation for what each one can bring to the table. So,
sorry.
No, go for it.
I was going to say, the beginning of that story, I think everybody needs to go watch it so they can understand. We actually do pretty well, I think, with telling the backstory to why we're even all going there. But to sum it up, I heard a story that was passed down from a family member who his family was connected to that story. And even after a couple of years of considering going after that many years ago, I have sent out people to go there with long-range metal detectors. Now, some of you, I don't know if you've heard about those or not. Some people who have may not believe in them. And to be honest with you, I can't say it's an absolute science, long-range metal detectors. But what I can tell you is that it's been very strange in the last few years when I have people go out and shoot. What I usually have them do is they'll stand in a place of interest that you can see with your eyes. You can see a 360 around you when they shoot that those long-range metal detectors, what was interesting, I brought two different guys with two different instruments to shoot, and they both pointed to where we found those petroglyphs. And that's what just right there. I mean, I had both guys who were running those instruments to run and scan for gold, and then they reprogram and scan for silver, and then they reprogrammed them and did iron, things like that. Both of those machines were pointing to that area where we found those petroglyphs. And so that alone, with the family story behind it, it's only been passed down throughout their family. I was lucky enough to meet this guy who told me the story about it. And he tells me that his grandfather back in the 70s accidentally stumbled upon this cave, this natural cave, when he was on top of his horse. And he ended up going inside. He didn't have a flashlight. He wasn't treasure hunting. He wasn't prepared for something like this. But he did have a Polaroid camera with him, and he took a snapshot of what he found. And he claims, and so does his family today, and they say one thing that you can tell about a story when someone's telling you, there are fish stories out there, but then there's also stories that people believe that it's true. And when you hear from a descendant of a person who believes that what they found was true, he's claiming that there was ancient tablets written on it with ancient writing that the guy he's never seen before, almost hieroglyphs. He claims that there were swords in there, shields, gauntlets made out of silver and gold with jewels around them, and it sounds like a crazy story, but when you have a scientific machine two different ones point to an area, and then we take a team out there, we find petroglyphs, and we found other symbols as well. And when you start finding those kind of things, it makes you wonder, is there some truth to that story? And that's what we were trying to do out there. And the one thing, Todd did find that horseshoe, which that goes along with the story. A guy from the 70s on his horse, walking on that ridge line with those lava rocks, he could have lost. The horse could have thrown a shoe, so maybe Todd found a clue that points to the story, has some truth behind it. And then the petroglyphs were so secluded and just by themselves with nothing else around. The triangle that we found, when I came back, I included that in this episode, that I'm looking at that site differently now because of what we found on the cameras. And I remember finding that site years ago and investigating with people, and then we take this team in looking at it differently, and now I'm thinking that triangle has a symbol that we did not see with the naked eye on there that changes that whole site.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's included in the episode. It was, we believe at this point, believe it or not, it was my publisher that found when they were publishing the photos in my new book, they had a person who was blowing up the images and stuff, and they sent it back to me, and they go, hey, what about this image? And I looked at it and I go, oh yeah, I forgot I sent you that. And because I don't know what they did with the picture, but the way it just looked clear to me, and that's when I realized it looked like there was a circle inside that triangle, and that circle only went through one of the three circles in that triangle, which in that case, we would look at that different. If we were to go there today, we would use that symbol and most likely go in a different direction than what we did when we were out there.
Yeah, you never know what you might find or what you may miss or see that may lead you to a different area or a different location. So it makes every adventure always unique, I think, as well. But all in all, I think it was such a fun adventure, and it was great getting to work with you guys. Amanda, did we have any questions in our audience, people in chat?
No, I've asked them. I asked the one that I saw. They're going back and forth on bringing old compasses and talking about the equipment, that was being discussed in the show. Yep. So that's about
awesome.
it. Tim, I did put your new book, which I am very excited. Again, got it in the mail on Friday, and I'm looking forward to. I'm sure I'll have it done by the end of this week because I love reading. So,
Well, thank you.
yeah, absolutely. I can't. I mean, just the start of it it's already been great. So,
When I decided to write books, that's for years. I've been telling family members and friends, people who are outside of the treasure hunting community, and I tell them some of my stories. And for years, I've heard people go, "Oh my gosh, you gotta write this stuff down." I'm like, "Well, I do. I have it written down." And they're like, "No, you got to put it in the book." So I did have an opportunity in 2022. Believe it or not, I wrote 3 books. The first one's out right now, Treasures of the Ancient. You can get it on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, or Walmart. It's in a lot of different locations. But this book, I decided to come out with this one for the first one because I believe this one will open up a lot of people. It doesn't matter if you're a beginner and you're trying to and you want to get into treasure hunting, or even if you're an advanced treasure hunter. This book is going to be very knowledgeable in the way of opening up your mind and expanding your mind to take in new information and look at some of these sites differently.
it's awesome. No, that's great. There's one question. V wants to know, have you considered using LiDAR?
Yes. Yeah, we definitely have. And in some places, LiDAR has been used here in the United States and all around the world. Unfortunately for us, some of the places we've gone to, LiDAR has not been used by either the state or the government to, lots of times they use it for many different things. Sometimes they're putting a new pipeline in, or sometimes they're seeing if the area has minerals in it. Unfortunately, in a lot of areas that we have been going to, LiDAR has not been used, or at least it's not public access at this point.
Accessible.
So I have looked into renting LiDAR, but now you're looking at 2 different possibilities: either renting a plane. The LiDAR machine itself costs about $60,000. That would work for what we do. But then you got to rent a plane, a pilot, gas, expenses. That's been pretty tough. I did find, talking about drones earlier, I did find LiDAR and a GPR system that will work on a drone as long as you're not too high off the ground. About 15 to 20 feet high is where you can go. And you could end up using the GPR part of the equipment to penetrate inside the ground and see what's underneath it. And then you could also swap it over to the LiDAR. That's pretty expensive too. I think I sent that stuff to Marc and Todd a couple of years ago, and I believe our cost was total out the door around $100,000 to buy that equipment ourselves. So it's pretty costly.
Wow. It's crazy. Yeah, people don't realize how much it costs to do these productions and to put all that extra stuff that we would love to do if we had the backing and stuff. I know you had some sponsors to be able to do what you did, but a lot of people just don't realize, to have the LiDAR or any of that, that's a big extra expense unless you've got somebody that already has that equipment who's willing to work with you.
Yeah, and that's one thing that we're hoping to change, by when we get more views. And, we talked about Garrett being our sponsor. I wanted to say not only are they a great sponsor, but they're a great supporter. Garrett Metal Detectors not only sponsored us, but they brought out Gypsy, KG, and Ringy. And I'm constantly talking and working with Garrett, and I look at them as a support just as much as a sponsor. That's how good of a company they are. They really care about everybody, and they care about who they're sponsoring too, so they've been a great company. But as Uncharted Expedition grows, and, we've been bouncing back ideas and talking about sponsors and stuff for season 2. As that grows and as the views grow, there is definitely a possibility to start getting into some high-tech equipment as we go along.
Right. And the more you